Let me tell you, the last thing you expect standing on your own porch at 7 a.m. is to see 500 yoga mats spread across your back pasture and realize, oh hell, the bees are about to teach these people the kind of lesson no TED Talk ever will. You ever wake up thinking it's going to be a quiet Saturday, and by sundown, you're explaining natural consequences to the share of 3 news crews and a yoga influencer who tried to steal your land with a PowerPoint and a clipboard? Yeah, that's the kind of week I've had. My name's Wes Hoffman, 62 years old, lived on the same 15 acres outside Millerville, California. My entire life, hell, I was born here, and if I get my way, I'll die here too. The land's been in my family since 1952 when my granddad bought it cheap, back when you could still see the Milky Way at night and people actually knew their neighbors. It's not quite the rural paradise it used to be. Half the county's gone suburban chic, the other half like me, just hanging on, rattling around in 2 big houses after all the kids move out, or in my case, after your wife of 43 years dies and you realize silence can be louder than any fire engine. Sharon always said, help your neighbors, they'll help you back. After she passed, the house felt empty, like the world had packed up and left with her. So I started keeping bees, 12 hives each, named after a firefighter I lost, or nearly lost. Rodriguez Murphy, Jimmy Kowalski. Out there in the early morning, coffee in hand, I'd listen to that low, purposeful hum, 40,000 tiny workers making sense out of chaos. Never asked for much more than a patch of clover and enough peace to do my job. That was before Karen Westfield arrived, flouncing into town with a Tesla, a white smile, and an Instagram following big enough to overthrow a small government. She and her husband Derek bought the biggest house in the new Meadowview development, a fake Mediterranean pile that looked like someone's idea of Napa Valley but with less class and more stucco. She's a life coach and yoga instructor. He's a tech guy, works in server farms or server clouds, something involving a lot of money and absolutely zero dirt under his fingernails. Within 6 months, Karen's HOA president pushing community standards, which is code for if it doesn't look like Pinterest, it needs to go. And if you think I'm exaggerating, you've never seen a woman in $200 hiking boots that have never seen a mountain click-clacking up your gravel driveway to tell you your bee boxes are a health hazard. First it was complaints, certified letters, threats of fines, claims that Africanized killer bees were stalking the neighborhood kids. Animal control. Livestock ordinances she probably downloaded off some blog. She made her first big mistake assuming a man with nothing left to lose was going to fold just because she had a nice car in a Facebook group. Now I've pulled kids out of burning houses, patched up grandmothers, and once carried a dog 2 blocks in a smoke-filled crawl space because some things you just don't leave behind. There are 2 things you learn running into burning buildings: you watch each other's backs, and you never let bullies win. I filed every permit, every inspection, got support from half my neighbors, the ones not scared of Karen's Instagram. Rodriguez from Animal Control, poor kid, looked like he'd rather face a bear than Karen. I showed him my paperwork, walked him through every hive, every certificate. Karen's PowerPoint started melting under the truth. But people like Karen, they don't stop. They escalate. Next came community wellness walks, groups of strangers, all in matching Lululemon, tramping through my fields like they owned the place. She claimed historical farm road access, which is about as real as the 3 unicorns I keep in my barn. Derek's out there with laser levels and GPS, trying to prove his septic system isn't leaking on my land spoiler it was, and that little twist nearly made Pete Kowalski choke on his beer. Not only were they trespassing, they'd been dumping sewage on my pasture for 18 months. If you're keeping score, that's trespass, environmental violation, and probably some kind of cosmic irony. Meanwhile, Karen's on next door warning about unstable neighbors and possible mental health crises. You know, because protecting your own property apparently means you're unhinged. Funny thing about people who push too hard, they leave fingerprints. I spent 3 nights at the county recorder's office. My deed's older than the subdivision. No easements, no public access. Every yoga pose, every footprint, every Instagram story, they were documenting their own crimes. And Derek's surveying, it proved they were polluting my land. Sometimes karma's got a wicked sense of humor. But the real twist, Pete, my lawyer buddy Eddie's boy, dug into Streamline Solutions, Derek's company. Turns out this wasn't their first rodeo. They'd pulled the same stunt in Pleasanton and Petaluma, move and harass old-timers, file bogus complaints, force a cheap sale flip the land for a fat profit. This was a con dressed up as community wellness. Emails from Derek 6 months max. We'll have his land for half price. Karen wellness angle is perfect cover. Old timer looks like the villain. I read those texts sitting at the kitchen table. Sharon's worry stone in my hand and felt something in me lock into place. Let me tell you, there's no pain quite like realizing people have weaponized kindness, twisted it into something that destroys. But there's also nothing like the moment you realize you've got them. I spent a week rigging my hive's motion sensors, simple gravity-fed releases set to open if the sound system got too close. Pete started stacking the legal case: trespassing, fraud, environmental crime, bribery. Yep. Karen tried to bribe the county inspector, and Eddie recorded the whole thing. We called in the sheriff news crews and anyone else who'd listen. Then we waited. Saturday morning, I sat on the porch, coffee hot, air crisp, watching the sun light up 500 campers who'd paid $50 each for a wellness retreat. Karen, in her white yoga pants and bullhorn, looked like a general about to invade France. Derek's out there with his surveying gear, probably dreaming of server farms and dollar signs. The music started thump, 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 vibrating through the ground right into the hives. 40,000 bees bred gentle, but nobody's doormat poured out like a living cloud. It was biblical. People running, screaming, abandoning gear worth more than my pickup. Food trucks peeled out yoga mats, flew Teslas, jammed the driveway. Karen, bless her, tried to rally the troops with positive energy, but bees aren't big on groupthink. Deputy Martinez arrived in time to see Derek mid-fraud surveying my land in front of the news cameras. I handed over the folder: emails, business plans, evidence of harassment from 2 other towns. Channel 7's Jessica Martinez aided up real estate fraud, HOA abuse, a wellness cult, all brought down by a retired firefighter and 40,000 angry bees. When Karen accused me on live TV of releasing killer bees to attack peaceful campers, I just sipped my coffee. Bees don't like loud strangers, neither do I. Actions have consequences. Martinez read Derek his rights, loaded Karen into a squad car, and the sound of sirens mixing with the sweet scent of honey. Well, that's about as close to justice as I'll ever taste. 6 weeks later, Karen and Derek pled guilty. Bribery, fraud, document forgery, commercial, trespassing, the works. Derek's business is gone. Their victims in Pleasanton and Petaluma got their money back, even got some land returned. Karen's GoFundMe legal defense barely covered the medical bills for her stung wellness warriors. The HOA collapsed. Property values stabilized. I took half the settlement and bought thermal cameras for the volunteer fire department, gave the rest to a honey delivery program for elderly neighbors. The school added my hives to their ag program. My daughter called from Oregon, first time since Sharon passed, wanting to come visit with the grandkids. The biggest surprise, the Veterans Therapy Group. Turns out beekeeping's perfect for folks with PTSD, routine purpose, a sense of protection. Rodriguez Hive's honey tastes sweeter than ever, and the porch is a little less lonely. So what did I learn? 3 things. Document everything. Know your rights. And never ever underestimate the power of 40,000 tiny friends who don't care how many Instagram followers you have. Now maybe the real lessons this justice when it comes isn't always pretty. Sometimes it's messy, noisy, and stings like hell. But you don't get to claim community while you're stealing from it. You don't get to hide behind wellness and healing while poisoning your neighbor's land. And you sure as hell don't get to mess with an old firefighter who's got nothing left to lose and everything left to protect. But here's what I can't figure out. Where's the line? How far can people go using laws and community standards before it stops being progress and starts being plain old theft? Is it okay to bend the truth if you think your cause is good? Or does karma sooner or later always come buzzing back? I'd love to hear your take. Have you ever tangled with an HOA, a Karen, or someone who thought rules were for other people? Drop your story or your thoughts about justice and property in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Sometimes the smallest creatures teach the biggest lessons about standing up for what's right. Community matters. Truth wins. And when all else fails, well, there's always the bees.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.